Welcome back to Artsy-Island-Girl. Today I'm going to show you how to create a Northern Lights resin art piece. The first step is to prep your canvas. I have some pieces of foam board in there that I'm using to help support the weight of the resin so it doesn't stretch the canvas in the middle while I'm working on it. And then I'm going to add some finishing wax as well as some painter's tape over the edge, and that's going to help me be able to remove the resin drips when I am completely done. Once I have the bottom of the canvas all prepped, I can add my base coat color. In this case, I'm adding Prussian blue. I just love it for the sky. I like the darkness, but I like the tone of blue to it. Make sure that you do the sides of the canvas as well as the front, because when we start to do our resin layers, it is gonna cover the sides, and whatever's on there is going to be encapsulated in the resin. So I want there to be the same blue as I have for the sky. And I'm just going to make sure that it's completely covered, and I've covered all 4 edges. So my base coat is completely done and dry. I'm going to prop my canvas on some painter pyramids to raise it from my surface that I'm working on. And I also want to make sure that the canvas is completely level before starting to pour resin, because if it is not, the resin is going to flow towards the lowest point. I've got my resin completely mixed and ready to go. I'm going to add some glass glitter to it, and those are going to be kind of like the stars in the sky. Then I'm going to pour my resin over my surface, making sure to cover all of the edges, and then I'm using a heat gun to pop all the bubbles. So I've let my resin cure overnight. This is a little sample board I made of the different mica and acrylic paints that I have in order to use on this project. It was great to be able to visualize exactly and see exactly how they were going to look when I created my piece. I have another YouTube video showing how I made it. So I decided to put these acrylic paints to color my resin in order to create the Northern Lights look. So I'm adding that to the resin, and I will start painting my Northern Lights with this next layer of resin. So we're on the next day. My green ended up lightening up a lot more than I would like, so I'm going to add another layer of resin, my third layer, and this time we're going to add more green. I'd like it to be a little bit more vibrant than what it is right now. So I'm following the exact same steps as before, covering my entire piece with resin, and then I'm going to add the green for the Northern Lights. I'm going to use a heat gun here, both to pop the bubbles that have risen to the surface, as well as to soften the lines. I want there to be a little bit more softer lines between my sky and my northern lights. So my third layer is completely cured. I'm going to add a layer of evergreen trees to the bottom of the canvas, just to add some more interest and depth to it. And then I'm going to put another layer of resin over. This time, instead of using green to color my resin, I'm going to use some pink and some blue just to add different colors to the northern lights. My fourth layer of resin has completely dried, so I'm going to add a second layer of the evergreen trees, once again to add a little bit more interest and depth to the bottom. I want to be able to see the trees behind the ones I'm painting now, so I'm not covering them completely, just making it look like a thicker forest. Also wanted to mention, between each and every layer of resin, I'm waiting 24 hours so it's completely cured before adding the next layer. And then I also use my heat gun to make sure all of the bubbles have been removed, so I don't have bubbles on my surface or dust. I make sure to babysit it and make sure to pick anything out that might float in there from the air. This is my fifth and final coat of resin. I'm adding it to the surface, making sure to spread it all around, and using my heat gun to completely pop all of the bubbles that have risen to the surface. I'll babysit it for the first hour or so to make sure that anything that rises to the surface gets removed. Just using my heat gun to soften the resin drips on the side and the painter's tape to pull them off. This is where the wax finishing paste helps because it will help to resist the drips, so they'll pull off quite easily. And I just go around all 4 sides to do that. Lastly, we can't have artwork without being able to hang it, so I'm going to add a hanger to the back of my piece. If you enjoyed this content, please hit subscribe to see more of videos just like this, as well as other things that I'm creating. If you'd like more detail on how this was created, there's a link to the Skillshare class below where I go into much more detail.